Once, a person went out into the yard and a stone fell on him from the sky. Still hot. Another time, during a thunderstorm, it wasn't water that came down over the city, but living fish. Somewhere it rained gold. Somewhere, hundreds of birds all at once. And somewhere in the sky, something froze for which no name has been found to this day. It sounds like a fiction, only all of it was captured on camera. Part of the mystery was solved down to the last comma. Part of it bowed to no one. And the trickiest thing is, at first glance, you can hardly distinguish one from the other. If you get distracted for a second, you miss the exact moment that was worth watching for. You are on the channel Top Facts. I wish everyone an enjoyable viewing experience. Arizona, a short recording of a thunderstorm. First, an ordinary lightning strike, a bright discharge hitting down from the cloud. But if you look closer at the tip, something inexplicable outlines itself there. Contours that uncannily resemble a giant open palm. The discharge drives with force into the earth. And the shape, which froze in the sky for a moment, no one dares to explain. Later, the locals added another detail to the story. The place where the lightning allegedly struck has stood untouched and empty ever since. Whether that is true or not, that is hard to verify. But it is precisely from such details that legends arise that people later tell each other in whispers. Dubai, last year. The night sky is sliced by a huge glowing object that leaves a bright trail that persists long after it has flown past itself. It moved quickly, as if something were racing above the city at immense speed, and bathed everything beneath it in light. Some decided it was part of a rocket launch or a test flight. Others assured that the phenomenon fits no known explanation. The object showed itself a single time, disappeared, and has never been properly identified since. All that remained was a bright stripe on the recording and a chorus of versions, none of which prevailed. Rocky Mountains, Colorado. A local resident notices something unusual high above the peaks, a glowing object in the shape of a ring hanging motionless in the air. The outline was so sharp that the ring actually resembled a portal hanging directly over the ridge. It didn't hold like that for long and then began to fade and dissolved completely. Not a sound, not a trace, no understandable explanation as to where it came from and where it went. And the proximity to the mountains lent the whole scene a special uneasiness. One thing is a little light somewhere over the city, and quite another is an ideally even ring of light hovering over wild peaks. The year 2018, Amman, the capital of Jordan, people notice something incomprehensible high above the city. At first it seems simply a camera error, a spot on the recording, but the person filming zooms in and the details emerge more clearly. The object is round and several long outgrowths hang down from below, resembling tentacles. It didn't move like a balloon and not like an aircraft known to the locals. Whether a strange flying device or something living, it was impossible to understand. The appearance of this thing over the city left far more questions than answers, and not a single one was closed. Two short videos got the net discussing itself hoarse, because if this is true, everything changes. In the first, albeit grainy video, you can clearly see a human-like figure hovering directly in the air, something like a long white cape, and all of it glows in a strange, uncomfortable light. In the second, it is even creepier. A dark silhouette resembling a human glides through the night sky as if it had stepped out of a horror movie screen. One must be honest, most of the time behind such recordings is no miracle, but someone's clever editing or a successfully chosen angle. Proving that the figures are real, no one could. So it is most likely that someone was simply making fun of the viewers, but this joke looks surprisingly convincing. Philippines, the city of Naga. People have just come out of church and the sky seemed to have decided to continue the sermon. Directly above them appeared a luminous cloud, stretched out into a tall figure with arms wide open to the sides. From below, this looked like a colossal angel frozen in the air, and the shape lasted long enough for dozens of people to manage to take out their phones and film everything. Some considered it a sign from above and a blessing. Some shrugged their shoulders. Simply a bizarre cloud. A coincidence. One can argue endlessly, but even skeptics admitted one thing. The moment was chosen all too precisely, directly after the service, directly above the heads of those coming out of the temple. A completely normal day, people are busy with their things, and suddenly a giant glowing ring forms in the sky. It simply appears, so bright that it is impossible not to notice it, and absolutely silent at that. No roar of engines, no trace behind it, nothing to indicate where it came from. There simply hangs an even circle of light but gives you goosebumps because, by all laws, it shouldn't be there. And then the most unpleasant thing. The person with the camera got distracted for a second, turned their gaze away, and when they looked back, the ring was no longer there. It vanished just as noiselessly as it had appeared, without leaving even a hint that it existed at all. Mexico. People notice something in the sky that the eye refuses to believe. A giant dark figure stride through the air, not flying, not hovering, precisely striding as if the clouds beneath it were solid like the earth under one's feet. The silhouette looked almost human, only disproportionately giant, from those beings that live in ancient legends, where someone great and ancient lives above humans. Whether it was real or just a bizarre illusion of light and clouds, no one will tell, but those who saw it stood for a long time with raised heads and couldn't get rid of the feeling that someone had just walked across the sky. A group of friends was returning from a trip when someone noticed a strangeness in the sky. At first, simply a tiny dot in the distance, but it was enough to zoom in on the image and the dot transformed into a completely black, human-like silhouette frozen in the air. It didn't flap its wings like a bird, didn't hum, and didn't move in jerks like a drone. It simply hung there, motionless, and that alone already sent a chill through you. The friends kept filming and argued among themselves. Either a simple explanation would be found for everything, or they were looking at something far outside the boundaries of the comprehensible. A camera on the Mexican border caught something in the sky for which it is hard to find a name. A dark, shapeless mass slowly descended, and long outgrowths pulled away from it on all sides like tentacles. Behind all this, trail dragged a tail of black smoke. It moved wrong, not like a hot air balloon carried by the wind, and not like an airplane that has a clear shape and course. Something loose, living-looking, settling toward the earth. An explanation was not found. All that remained was the recording, which you can easily watch over and over again, and which is impossible to fully understand. A YouTuber in Japan launches a drone at night. He wants to record a beautiful panorama of the city from above, and into the frame suddenly pushes what shouldn't be there, a bright blue beam striking directly from the earth into the sky. It doesn't just glow, it pulsates as if it were breathing, as if it were alive. The video spread like wildfire, and versions poured in all at once. Secret experiments, alien technologies, even allusions to the theory of Project Bluebeam, the idea that the authorities will one day stage a fake miracle in the sky. No official explanation was given by anyone, and precisely this silence makes the blue column even more uncomfortable. The light was there, it was filmed, and where it came from, silence. In a Chinese city, thousands of people gathered at a shopping center for a drone show. Hundreds of glowing dots draw figures and inscriptions into the sky. The drones had just formed the name of the mall, and suddenly part of them goes out all at once and begins to plunge downward, one after another, directly onto the streets filled with people. The crowd scattered, the devices fell onto cars and roofs. Fortunately, it ended without injuries, but the cause of the malfunction was never officially named. And the most unpleasant thing here is not even the fall itself, but the synchronicity. Dozens of drones failed in one and the same second, as if something had switched them all off at once with a single stroke. Next to a tall building, a passerby noticed what you don't see on a normal day, a human figure slowly being lifted upward into the sky. And this lifting didn't happen the way a balloon is carried away. The creepy impression arose as if the figure were resisting, fighting against an invisible force pulling it upward against its will. The viewers who saw the video first thought of an abduction by a UFO. That version immediately became the most common. And the recording breaks off right in the middle without showing how it all ended. And precisely this video broken off mid-sentence causes the most fear. Whatever it was, the ending is written by everyone themselves. An old, grainy recording. According to rumors from Russia, soldiers make their way through a dense forest, and at first, there is nothing unusual. And then the camera turns, and there it is. A giant UFO, as if it had carefully landed directly between the trees. The strange thing is that the military were on site almost instantaneously. Although there was neither smoke nor a trace in the sky, nothing that would have indicated a crash. Simply a giant alien device in the middle of the thicket. Some believe it was a real UFO catastrophe kept secret. Others that the object was deliberately dragged here for filming. The truth, as so often with such tapes, no one knows. But the forest is definitely the last place you expect to encounter something like that. If you are afraid of spiders, you'd better skip this story. A few years ago, the sky in Brazil was literally teeming with spiders. No, they didn't rain down like showers, they hung there, in clusters, on a colossal spider web spun so high that it seemed as though the threads came directly out of the clouds. The locals explain this with hunting behavior. Some species actually weave joint webs of huge surface area and lie in wait for prey together. Only it doesn't become any easier through such an explanation. Imagine, you walk down the street and above you sway hundreds, if not thousands of eight-legged creatures. Science is calm here, but the skin hardly is. A man filmed a city panorama with his cell phone from the roof of a high-rise. Simply a beautiful evening view. And suddenly, a thin, dazzlingly bright beam struck downward from the sky. Not a lightning discharge, lightning branches out and extinguishes in a fraction of a second. This one was straight like a stretched string and struck exactly into the courtyard of the neighboring house. A few seconds and everything went out. The strangest thing, no fire, no crater, no trace. The yard is undamaged, as if nothing had happened. When the video circulated on the net, versions poured in, each bolder than the last. From a secret weapon to something that quite obviously didn't come from this planet. No one has proof. There are only a few seconds of video and a question that no one has answered yet. Idaho Falls, April 2019. People step out onto the parking lot and freeze. On the asphalt lie dozens of geese scattered, not injured, not shot, dead, and all in one place. Yet this flock had been moving calmly across the city sky just a minute ago. What could bring down so many large birds all at once, and in such a way that they tumbled down in a heap? Experts who examined the site came to a solution to the puzzle that sounds almost ridiculous for a clear day: lightning. The flock simply got into the wrong place at the wrong second, in the path of a thunderstorm discharge as a brief, furious storm had gathered over the city. A flash of lightning and dozens of birds tumbled down like shot down. 12th of December 2019. A remote country road on the island of Anglesey in North Wales. A woman at the wheel sees a gathering of starlings along the roadside and first thinks they are eating. She drives closer and realizes that not a single bird is moving. There are hundreds. On a single section, about 225 dead starlings were counted, as if the flock as a whole had fallen from the sky all at once. Part of the bodies were collected for analysis to understand what happened. Poisoning? An impact with the ground in panic? Something in the air? The exact cause was never named. The story remained hanging without an answer, one of the most unsettling bird mysteries in this area. When something shiny rains from the sky, one expects rain or hail, but not gold. In Yakutsk, near the airport, bars fell to the earth, real, heavy, precious ones. The cause turned out to be no less crazy than the spectacle itself. On a cargo plane, the loading ramp failed during takeoff, and part of the cargo fell out directly onto the runway and around it. According to various reports, it was several tons of valuable metal scattered over the snow. The authorities rushed to collect everything, cordoned off the area, and recounted every bar. Only when valuables are scattered over a huge snow-covered area, it is hard to believe that absolutely everything was found down to the last gram. A normal evening at the beach, a man notices a narrow beam of light over the water running from top to bottom even, as if someone had pointed a thin spotlight downward. He leads his gaze further up and realizes that the beam originates from some object in the sky, and right here it gets uncomfortable. The object itself almost merges with the background, as if it were deliberately hiding and dissolving into the evening sky. A few seconds and the beam goes out. And that which emitted it slowly ascends higher and higher until it disappears completely. What that was cannot be proven, but the human standing in the sand that evening knows for sure that he saw a light for which no earthly source was found. July 2019, late night. Those who were not sleeping saw something in the sky that, with the best will, did not look like a shooting star. A slow trail of fire pulled downward too smoothly, too long, as if it were descending controlled. A few minutes, and on the net, people were already joking about UFOs and debris from the International Space Station, and the truth turned out to be much more prosaic and yet spectacular. Space debris entered the atmosphere. Debris from a Chinese launch from 2015. Metal that had circled above us for years finally made the plunge back and burned, pulling fire across half the sky. Liaoning Province, China. People go out onto the street after a thunderstorm and freeze. Everything around them is covered with worms. They are on the asphalt, on the sidewalks, on the roofs, on the hoods of cars, a moving, living layer over an entire neighborhood. Some ran back into the house. Some carefully made their way through this mess, trying not to step on them. Where did thousands of worms come from in the middle of the city? Experts offered an explanation. Strong wind during the storm could have lifted them into the air somewhere in the fields and only let them down here, many kilometers away. Sounds logical, but it doesn't make it any easier when you see with your own eyes a street literally writhing under your feet. North Sumatra, a roar of such force that the homeowner decided something exploded nearby. He goes inside and finds the source. Embedded in the living room floor, sunk about 15 centimeters deep, is a strange stone, and it is still warm. The man suspected a meteorite, posted the find on the net, and scientists confirmed. The stone indeed came from outer space, and in addition, it is a rare specimen. Collectors and institutes around the world hunt for such ones, and it was successfully sold for very serious money. September 2021, Gianyar district in Bali. A man enters the cemetery and stands rooted to the spot. The earth under his feet is white with birds, sparrows, thousands of sparrows, scattered over the grave so densely as if a rain shower had brought them. A part still twitches, a part is already motionless. Healthy birds don't just fall from the sky in whole clouds like that. They searched for the cause but found nothing convincing, neither poison nor a disease that could be spoken of with certainty. People parted with one and the same uncomfortable feeling. Sometimes nature does things that fit into no logic whatsoever. That was exactly such a case. July 2015, Virginia Beach. A family goes out into the yard and discovers what in principle cannot be there: a shark. A small one, only about 33 centimeters long, of those called sandbar sharks, but nevertheless a real shark lying on the grass far away from the ocean. How did a sea predator end up on the lawn, a block away from the water? The most plausible version sounds almost comedic. A large seabird caught the small shark while hunting, carried the prey through the air, and couldn't hold it along the way. An explanation seems to exist, and the astonishment on the faces of those who found it in the middle of the lawn nevertheless didn't go anywhere. 22nd of January 2020, South Florida. A woman steps out into the yard in the morning, and under the tree lie iguanas, several of them frozen with petrified bodies, paws pointing up. At first glance, dead. In reality, the explanation is strange but absolutely real. Overnight, a sudden cold snap broke over Florida, and iguanas are cold-blooded creatures. It is enough for the temperature to drop and their muscles literally stop obeying. The reptile freezes and falls from the branch where it was warming itself. But that is not death, but something like a pause. The woman left them alone, and as the air warmed up, the lizards awakened one by one to new life and crawled away as if nothing had happened. The Iranian city of Yasuj received something worse than an ordinary downpour during a heavy thunderstorm. From the sky, together with the water, it rained fish. Small, silvery, in places still living fish. It thrashed about on the earth where it fell. The video spread instantaneously. People didn't understand how such a thing is physically even possible. Scientists tend toward the version with a waterspout. A tornado over the nearest lake or river sucks up water together with the fish into itself, lifts all that into the cloud, and drops it a few kilometers further away. The mechanism is rare, and science doesn't dare to describe exactly how that works for now. But fact remains fact. Sometimes fish actually comes down from the sky. A clear day over Georgia and South Carolina. Hundreds of people raise their heads and see a streak of fire cut through the sky. Not an airplane, not fireworks. Something bright, tearing, and everything was over before you'd even properly comprehend what you were seeing. More than 100 witnesses reported the phenomenon. Experts explained it simply: most likely a meteor burning up in the atmosphere. Only a dry, simply a meteor doesn't convey at all how insane that looked. A stone from outer space flaring up so brightly in broad daylight under full sun that it was noticed. No wonder people kept looking up for a long time after such a thing. Florida, night. Something strange is going on in the sky. On the recording, you can see incomprehensible activity above, and directly after that, absolute madness begins below. The car alarms on all cars nearby go off simultaneously. The headlights flash, the engines shut off. An entire street full of technology goes crazy at the same time. Commentators immediately fell into conspiracy theories, recalling that very Project Bluebeam, the version that the authorities will at some point stage the second coming in order to control people. Whether one believes that or not is everyone's personal matter, but one thing can be said for sure: the recordings are real, and no one has supplied a sensible explanation as to why the whole street went out all at once so far. San Diego, a traffic jam, but not because of an accident. Traffic came to a standstill because $20 bills were flying through the air over the highway. A portion of the load had fallen out of an armored car, and the money was blown directly across the roadway by the wind. People left their cars and grabbed for anything they could reach. Some stuffed bundles into their jackets. Some simply filmed this chaos with their cell phones. It seemed free money in the middle of the street, but the story had a second half. The police arrived. Some were arrested on the spot, and the rest were identified through camera footage. Those who had stuffed their pockets with someone else's cash were strongly advised to hand it in themselves before someone comes to their home. The eastern part of Las Vegas wakes up and discovers cars and houses full of small, brown, oily-looking drops. Everyone's first thought is the same: acid rain. But no, the solution to the puzzle turned out to be much more down-to-earth and, to be honest, more unpleasant. It was bee droppings. A huge swarm left such a gift on hoods and roofs while flying over the neighborhood. Fortunately harmless to health, although there is little pleasant about it. And while tourists on the boulevard chased luck in the casino, locals wiped a completely different, much less desired jackpot off their cars in the morning that had pelted down directly from the sky. Beginning of May, parts of Texas and Louisiana. It is raining, but the water isn't transparent but has a light bluish tint. Tourists film how drops pelt onto tent roofs and gather in puddles that shimmer strangely in the light. And then it gets even stranger. From the sky, semi-transparent, jelly-like lumps begin to fall. Soft, sticky, completely out of place. They stick to cars, roofs, settle on fields. Experts didn't have a quick answer. How credible all of this is hard to judge. There are enough such videos on the net, and part is certainly embellished. But for some reason, one wants to look at the footage with the blue puddles and jelly balls again and again. Late night over Portugal. The darkness is suddenly cut by a bright green meteor, tearing, rich, leaving a glowing trail that remains hanging for a few moments after it has extinguished itself. Witnesses said that both the size and the color were incomparable to anything seen before. Some managed to capture everything on camera, and some simply stood there and stared as if frozen. The green hue is, by the way, a completely real thing. That is how some metals in the composition of the stone glow when it becomes white-hot in the atmosphere. The spectacle doesn't fade because of it, a rare cosmic flash gifted to the night sky for just a few seconds. On the recording, a bright object moves through the sky, and somewhat further ahead hangs a pale ring of light, almost as if these two were connected by an invisible thread. The strange thing is that the object flies, but the ring remains in place and doesn't follow it. Normal logic fails here. If this is a single phenomenon, why does one part of it race forward while the second freezes? People tried to find explanations. A natural optical effect, a reflection, something man-made, but no version convinced the others. Everyone stuck to their opinion. Evening over California. A glowing trail pulls across the sky, too slow for a meteor and too fast for an airplane. People froze right on the streets and filmed this strange stripe crawling over the horizon. Shape and glow made it look like a clip from a science fiction movie rather than something from real life. The official version turned out to be completely earthly. The reusable Falcon 9 of the company SpaceX was working, bringing another load of satellites into orbit. The ignited stage, the fuel, the rarefied air at altitude, that is already the whole secret of the glowing ghost. Although while watching it appear and dissolve, one or two people caught themselves thinking, is that really the whole story? High in the sky, against the background of the clouds, crawls a dark spot, and one doesn't immediately understand what that is. There is something uncomfortable in it, as if this thing were too much there, not in its place. When you look closer, you finally recognize the outlines of an airplane after all, but not one like the ones we are used to. Instead of the thin white condensation trail, a thick black smoke pulls behind it, greasy, heavy, extending over many kilometers behind it. Looks more like footage from a movie about an invasion than a normal flight. What brought the machine to smoke like that, no one officially explained. And this black band remained hanging in the air like that in the truest sense of the word, without an answer. A few months ago, something was noticed in the sky that apparently tried to hide behind the clouds and wasn't very successful at it. The surface gleamed so much that it caught the sun and betrayed itself with every flash. And the craziest thing, on this surface, one seemed to see a clear silhouette, as if someone or something were walking on it. And the dimensions were by no means tiny. The outlines joined into the shape of a giant pyramid. Commentators let their imagination run wild. If aliens exist, then technology with them would be exactly like this, a mirror clouding or some kind of camouflage to dissolve in the clouds. What was actually there, of course, no one confirmed, but a pyramid in the sky is an image that is hard to get out of your head. Las Vegas was gripped by a wind of such force that it seemed as though the city were about to be blown away. The gusts reached speeds of over 100 kilometers per hour, much more powerful than anyone had expected, and the valley looked afterward as if King Kong had marched through. By the evening of the 2nd of July 2025, more than 33,000 people were left without power, almost 300 outages at once. Rescue teams requested reinforcements. The wind brought down about 50 power poles. Snapped cables sprayed sparks all over the city. Eyewitnesses reported how the poles cracked and fell over one after another along the street with a roar. Like the end of the world, escaped one of them. And when looking back at that night, it was hard to disagree. The year 2015, the Chinese cities of Foshan and Jiangxi province. People raise their eyes and see a city, not on the earth, above the clouds. An entire silhouette of high-rises hanging in the air, as if a piece of another dimension had floated into our sky. The video spread instantaneously. Some screamed about a hologram, others about alien technologies. The solution was given by scientists, and it is called Fata Morgana. That is a rare optical illusion. Light penetrates through air layers of different temperatures, refracts, and distant objects rise, as it were, upward, stretch, and hang where they cannot be. The buildings were real, only very far away, stretched and distorted by the air. December 2021, Texas. A completely normal storm suddenly became really strange when fish flew from the sky together with the rain. Small silvery fish slapped onto cars, lawns, house roofs. Sounds like a fiction, but something similar had happened before. In 2010, Australia experienced its own rain of fish. Scientists explain this with waterspouts and strong updrafts that suck fish out of lakes and rivers, lift them into the air, and drop them somewhere off to the side, sometimes many kilometers away. The mechanics are indeed understandable, and yet seeing such a thing with your own eyes while standing under fish falling from above means forever reconsidering what the weather is capable of at all. Fishermen in the waters of Indonesia were out at sea when they noticed something falling from the sky. Something long, dark, large enough to stand out even from a great distance. It struck into the ocean far from the boat and whipped up a column of spray, but no debris whatsoever around came to the surface. Whatever it was, up there was definitely not its place. It went underwater and remained there, in the depth where no one glides after it anymore. No name, no explanation, simply another secret that the ocean properly swallowed, closing the surface behind it as if nothing had happened. The small town of Quaker City in the state of Ohio, a man named Pat was sitting quietly in his yard when a black stone came flying from somewhere above and crashed directly into his shoulder. At first, he thought the neighbor's boy had thrown something, and then he remembered. A second before the impact, there was a strange hiss that cut through the air. The stone bounced off his shoulder and splashed into the pool, and when Pat fished it out, it was still hot. He himself is sure that the thing came from outer space, only geologists haven't confirmed anything so far. Footage from Montana spread on the net, and honestly, it's understandable why. On it, a strange vertical object hangs in the sky, as if divided into 3 parts, and absolutely motionless at that. From another perspective, it even looks like a giant black snake frozen in the air. The versions poured in as usual: UFO, secret military technology, and then another family filmed something similar. Only this time, the object was cigar-shaped and slowly descended, pulling a trail of smoke behind it. For a few seconds, it seemed to them as if an airplane were crashing. But no, simply another sky phenomenon after which one begins to doubt whether one should believe one's own eyes. 4th of April 2022, a quiet village in the Indian state of Maharashtra, and suddenly an uninvited guest. Right in the middle of the field lies a massive metal ring, about 3 meters in diameter and over 40 kilograms heavy. Looks as if it had been teleported here. The locals were at a loss until it turned out it is space debris, a fragment of the Chinese rocket Long March that survived entry into the atmosphere and came down literally in people's backyard. Imagine that. You go out in the morning with a cup of tea, and in your garden lies a piece of orbital iron. And you involuntarily start pondering how many such heavy surprises are currently still circling over our heads, waiting for their turn to crash down. Last year, China. For no reason at all, a huge cloud turns an eerie red, as if glowing from the inside out, as if something giant were hidden in there. The light pulsated, and the whole picture looked so apocalyptic that some locals in all seriousness decided, that's it, the end is here. And then the glow extinguished just as suddenly. An explanation that satisfied everyone didn't appear, although a similar sky glow usually has a completely earthly cause, such as bright harbor or city light reflecting in the humid air. But on that evening, when looking into the red, burning sky, very few thought of light refraction. People thought of something else. Whether right now something isn't beginning that one had better not see. These photos have gripped the internet. People write in all seriousness that an angel fell from the sky, and the details are indeed gripping. The face like that of an ancient old man, and the body with seemingly real wings, only the feathers aren't snow white and lush as they are usually drawn, but worn as if decayed, aged together with their owner. This picture has something of an ancient being with giant wings. The people in the photographs seem truly bewildered. One doesn't understand whether they have seen a miracle or a nightmare. To be honest, it looks more like an artistic work or a staging than an angel fallen from the sky, but who knows for sure? Sometimes the most interesting part lies precisely in the fact that there is no fixed answer. Write in the comments everything you think about these clips, and subscribe to Top Facts for the most incredible compilations of facts and videos from the entire internet. Thank you very much for watching, and click right now on one of our previous episodes.